Welcome to another episode of the Rational Football League show. My name's Emmett. This is my co-host, Brendan. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Spotify. Like our videos, comment, but we're going to get right into it. B, let's start talking about the Vikings.
Yes, sir.
I know they've been a hot topic this week with Dalvin Cook being released. They've made a lot of changes this. I know we kind of looked it up, but this offseason made a lot of changes. They're looking to trade Darnell Hunter. They've released Adam Thielen. They've released Eric Kendricks. They've released now Dalvin Cook. They traded Zadarius Smith. I'm just going to kind of get into my opinion about this. I'm a little confused, a little bit lost about what their direction is. I mean, we mentioned maybe it's to get younger, and I can appreciate that, but their defense last year struggled. Like it they won a lot of one score games, but those flip flop year to year, that's not a consistent thing to rely on. And your defense was already the weaker part of the team. So, and most of the guys you released were on defense. I can understand like the Thielen move because he was high priced. He's a little bit older. You make the draft pick for Jordan Addison, the receiver out of USC, and that kind of makes sense. Good receiver. He could be a number two. Allows Justin Jefferson to thrive. Dalvin Cook, I kind of get it. Again, high-priced running back. He's not older, but he did have a down year. I know, like, his numbers were good, but his efficiency apparently wasn't too good from my understanding about it. Right. But you still have Alexander Madison. I apologize if I get that wrong.
Yeah.
Who's, from my understanding, has been a great number two, and I think he can thrive as a number one and be a lot cheaper for him. But, like, what's the answer for the defense? So, and even beyond that, what's the question at quarterback? I know we posed this question, post draft, but like, Kirk Cousins is a, good quarterback. He's a middle of the pack quarterback. What you get with him, solid play for sure. Yep. Solid play, but he's costing you what, 30 to 40 million fully guaranteed at this point every year.
Yeah.
At what point do you get cheaper there? At what point do you find someone that might have more upside, more of a ceiling? They really haven't ever been in a position to draft high enough to get a quarterback. So maybe that's the play this year. They kind of feel, the Packers are a little bit rebuilding. They know the Lions are probably, the front of the division. The Bears are kind of getting more on the upswing. So maybe their decision is we'll just kind of like subtly get cheaper, keep our offense good, maybe have it, they're not shooting for the number one overall pick, but they wouldn't be upset if they got, a top 10 pick. So maybe that's what their goal is this year, to kind of, try to get one, because I think the quarterback draft, this upcoming draft, is supposed to be loaded, right?
Yeah, you got Caleb Williams.
For sure. You got Drake May.
Bo Nix.
Who?
Bo Nix out of Oregon.
Yeah, I view Bo Nix more as like he's going to be like a high-end backup solid starter. I mean, that's just my watching him. But, we'll get into that college.
What's that dude from like Washington?
Pendrix. I like Pendrix a lot.
Yeah.
He plays a lot like Lamar.
Yeah.
You have the quarterback from the University of Tennessee this year, who again has a lot of upside. We'll see if he can actually. I don't remember his name, and again, we apologize for that. We don't know everyone on the planet's names.
Sorry about it.
Yeah, our Rolodex of names only goes so long, guys. There's 54 dudes on 34 rosters. What's that math? At least 1,500 guys. I think it's 1,800 guys. We're not going to remember everyone in college and everyone in the NFL. It's just not. Google it if you don't know what we're talking about. He plays quarterback at the University of Tennessee. Looks still at the end of last year when Hooker got hurt, but he's supposed to be a dude that's going to be a dog. So, I mean, if that's the goal, I don't think it's a bad goal for the Vikings. It gives you a chance to finally, supplement, Kirk Cousins and give you a potential future. So, I mean, I think that is probably their strategy, the subtle, tank without calling it tanking kind of a thing. And again, saving money. And if you're, why keep paying older players that aren't going to get you over the hump anyway? So, what's your opinion of it?
I think the Vikings are, like what you said, it's the right time for a small rebuild, right? You're trimming the fat. You got some older players that you don't want to necessarily overpay. Yeah, go ahead, ship them, right? Try to get younger here, get your core younger. And to your point, like it's going back to it, the North right now is relatively somewhat weaker, right? And also somewhat open. You know what I mean? So, I mean, they can kind of get the same string of luck from last season, and maybe, who knows, maybe they end up winning the damn North again.
Yeah, you think
You know what I mean?
you think the Vikings could win the North?
Dude, it's so open right now, honestly. It's so open. You have the Lions who are on the upswing, right? But they won what, nine games last year?
Yeah, I think they went 9-7. They beat the Packers week 17.
Then you got the Packers.
Yeah,
Going back to Lions. Who knows if they can do that again yet, right?
yeah, I
And then
guess.
you have the Packers
Yeah,
kind of going through a new like restart, rebuild right there. You
sure.
have the Bears who won 3 games last season. I know they have a lot of talk going on, but
Yeah.
show me
Well,
first.
according to Adam Rank, they're going to win 13 games this year. So
Yeah, yeah. They're going all the way, right?
did you see his thing when on
I
the
did. I did.
I
I love
I
rank.
know
But
he's like, I know I'm delusional, but win, win,
I,
win,
I
win.
I
Come on,
love,
dude.
and trust me, like I'm not trying to be like negative here, but also like, okay, show me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we won 3 games last year, right? So to that point, who knows what can happen within like the North? Like who actually knows? You know what I mean?
I again, this is just for my. I know Colin Cowherd talks about a lot, but the thing it's always like like a pendulum when it comes to like one score games. If you win a lot one year, you're gonna lose a lot the next year. It almost seems to happen without fail.
Yeah,
So that's
parody.
I wouldn't be surprised. And again, you just made your defense a whole lot weaker. I can get the idea of like you drafted to replace those guys, but I didn't really see him drafting one. I don't know off the top of my head all of their free agent signings, but I didn't hear any splash free agent signings. So, as far as I can tell, their defense is for sure they're going to be worse this year than it was last year. And from the Vikings fans that have commented on our posts before, we kind of know their defense was the weak point. It was the concern for people.
Yeah,
So, I mean, again, your two pass rushers were Zadarius Smith and Hunter. You've
yeah.
already traded one. You're looking to trade the other. We don't know if they will, but you're looking to trade another. I mean, there's no way you're going to win. What was it, 11 one-score games again? Like, it's
Yeah.
just, there's no way in hell that happens.
But the point I was more or less making is like, even if they win 9 games, who knows what that could be? That nine wins could be first place this year in the North.
Yeah, and
You
that's a
know what
good
I mean?
point. That's a good
You know
point.
what
I'll
I
give
mean?
you that. But again, not but again, what's the value in that? Like if you win nine
Right.
games, like that's a winning 9 games or going like 500 is good for rebuilding teams because that means you're progressing and you're making the right direction. If you're not in a rebuild and you're going 9-7 or 8-8, I'm sorry, you can't go 8 anymore. It's 9-8 or whatever the numbers are nowadays.
Yeah.
It just tells me that you're middling. You're middling. You're just surviving. Where's the direction? I think that's the moment where you see like a lot of sweeping changes.
Yeah. And that's a bad spot to be in, especially when you want a new franchise quarterback.
Yeah, but that can kind of just lead us right to our next topic of where's the fit for Dalvin Cook? I mean, what's going on with Dalvin Cook? What are your thoughts on the Dalvin Cook situation in its entirety?
The only thing I've seen on like Twitter is him tied to the Dolphins. Right. That's all I see. He's from like the city of
Yeah, he's
Miami.
from Florida.
Right.
He played
So
at FSU.
yeah, he went there. He knows it, but he also said like he's not willing to give them like a home state discount just
Yeah.
just just to play there, right? So I don't even know like what other team is out there on the market for a running back right now.
I think that kind of is a bigger problem in the NFL. I say it's a problem because man, it's just my perspective of it. But I feel like the running back in its entirety is, I mean, it's to say it's on the downslide is it feels like a severe joke. I mean, it's just one of the most disrespected positions. It's almost up there with like kicker at this point with disrespected positions.
For real,
I mean,
honestly, yeah.
this dude rushed for over 1,000 yards. I mean, he's been consistently an over 1,000 yard rusher, averaging anywhere, I think it was between 4.3 to 5 yards a carry, pretty much his entire career. And he just gets released at 27. I mean, he's not old. He's not
No, it's
weird
not.
down. Yeah, go
It
on.
was weird. What's weird about Cook is like you didn't see that drastic drop off, like how you're seeing in
No,
like Zeke
he
right
still
now.
ran for
Like,
over, I think, over 1,100 yards last year. He
yeah,
had
like
18 touchdowns 2 years ago.
Zeke does look like a completely different player right now. Maybe because he was just like injured the last couple
Maybe.
seasons, but like you're not seeing that drastic drop off.
No. Yeah,
Like
a la Zeke or,
he's
whatever.
still doing like well. You know what I
Right.
mean?
So I mean, again, and that's just kind of the thing to me that I don't get, like the disrespect to the position to just release him. I mean, and even the fact that these guys can't even get a solid like pay or second contract. I mean, the expectation is you don't put anything past, and then that's it. So I mean, I can't. I understand there's like analytics to the game and the potential war or value that they bring, but I mean, at a certain point, you have to keep defenses honest, and maybe our problem has become that is the way we evaluate the position. If you think about it, 4 yards a carry, you get 20 yards a game. 20 carries a game gives you about 80 yards per game. I apologize for that, for the misspeak about earlier. So 80 yards per game over 17 games if you stay healthy. I mean, that puts you over 1,000 yards. I believe that puts you at what would that put you at? Quick math here, 13 something. I mean, that's averaging 4 yards a carry, getting 20 yards a game if you could stay healthy. So, I mean, maybe we just need to find a new way to evaluate the position, because it used to be, 1,000 yards was great. But I mean, if you really think about it, it really doesn't signify much to what the actual production needs to be.
Yeah, because if you look at like the 17 games now, right, even if you got like 100 yards a game, that's 1,700 yards practice the entire season, which would be
exactly.
It sounds like a really insane number, right?
Yeah.
When you break it down, like 100 yards a game, it's like, oh,
yeah. And if he's only getting
it's still like
carries,
great, it's good, it's great, it's good, but it's also like, oh, that makes sense. It's not so like mind blowing to see that now. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, he can get 1,700 yards, which would be almost the record. Over a 2,000 yard rusher. As long as he averaged 100 yards a game. So I mean, I think maybe it's just part of the problem is we need to really reevaluate, the running back position and how we add value to it. And I think we're going to probably, and this is just my guess here, I think we're going to see a huge swing probably in the next 3 to 4 years, and maybe a resurgence for running backs, because now what's kind of happened is as there's been a heavier emphasis on the passing game, not only in the NFL, but in college as well. These linebackers are now converted safeties. They're smaller. Most guys play DB. Most of these defensive ends are trained on how to pass rush, and less of an emphasis on run stopping. Not saying they can't do it, but the emphasis is on pass rushers and pass rushing moves. You're willing to take a guy that can get you 10 sacks a season, even if he can't, stop the run. You're like, yeah, whatever, who cares? Yeah. And I think what that's all going to come with, you're having smaller D linemen. The days of a 340 pound, 360 pound D lineman are kind of in the rear view. And I think what offenses will do to adjust is you'll have these bigger hog molly linemen come back. You'll have these, a higher emphasis on the running back, because, at this point you can play bully ball and get 6, 7, 8 yards of carry, facing a smaller, quick, and most of these defense, but most of these teams also play in nickel now. So you're not even having a third or fourth linebacker on the field. You have another DB.
Yeah.
So what's
that? Why not line up in like power eye? Good old, smash mouth football. That's what I was going to say that too. Like, history always repeats itself.
Yeah.
Right. So right now it's the big, spread them out, get faster, get the ball outside, blah blah blah. Right. To your point, the defense is getting smaller, faster, quicker. Right.
Right. But they're going to adjust the
offense. Some teams are like, screw it, dude. Put three tight ends out there.
I mean, that's what the 49ers have been doing. And ever since 2019, that's what their success has been. It's been in the run game. It's because they're still prioritizing a fullback. They're still prioritizing a blocking tight end. They have bigger O-linemen that they expect to get out and block. They expect the receivers are expected to block. Like, that's the primary thing. And they run the ball down your throat, because if you're going to run, with a nickel out on the field, you're going to run a nickel coverage or nickel defense. Why would you not take advantage of that? Bring in a 6-0 lineman, just really move these dudes off the ball and get upfield. You can pick up 10, 15, 20 yards, which is even safer than a pass, because, obviously don't have the consequences of an incompletion or an interception. But if you can move these dudes with bigger bodies, because now, again, as you've stated, the defense is now small and quicker, you can still move these dudes and get huge chunks on the ground. So I think that's, I wouldn't be, and it started with the 49ers in 2019, and now you've kind of seen it. More teams are putting more of a subtle emphasis to it. That's why, Saquon Barkley is still getting paid and Josh Jacobs is still getting paid, because I think a lot of these teams are starting to realize that and catch on to the trend maybe a little bit early, and like thinking, maybe we don't want to release our running backs just, maybe we don't want to get rid of them, because I
Yeah.
think we might actually see a resurgence here coming soon.
I think it makes sense. I mean, you see the Eagles last year. I
For sure.
mean,
Again, number one running team.
yeah,
So again, you're going to always have the outliers of the Patrick Mahomes. But that's the thing is there's only one Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to draft the next Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't exist.
yeah,
The guy that can make the adjustment and make the accommodation or overcome any disadvantage, you're just not going to draft him. So other
yeah,
teams have to get smart, and I think that's the direction is they start to go. They start to see these linebackers that weigh 210 pounds, these D linemen that are all at 250, 275, and go, screw it. I'm going to draft this left guard that's 300 is going to road grade the crap out of this defensive end that wants nothing to do with, run stopping. And I'm just going to run past him.
yep, exactly.
Even look at just another example of just real quick of this last thing is Micah Parsons. Again, I think he's a great edge rusher. There's no doubt about that. I don't know how good he is as a run stopper. I think he's 240, 255. Again, we did not look that up before the podcast, so I don't know off the top of my head what his weight is.
I think it's 240 with his
240.
yeah.
What is he going to do against a guy like Trent Williams? What's he
Yeah.
going to do against a 6'6", 300-pound guy that's just going to grab him and say, "Hey, here's the sideline. Go sit your butt down."
I know he wants to put weight on, but I don't know how much weight he wants to put on.
Right, exactly. And you're not going to get him up to being 280. Like it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, that wouldn't
You
be
know,
like good. Like
if your right tackle is, yeah, and if
like
your right
one
tackle
like
is
off
330 and
crazy.
gets his hands on him,
Mhm.
it's done. So I think that's the kind of direction we go.
Yeah.
But that kind of also leads into a great next point that we were going to talk about is, I know there's been a lot of talk about the baby Gronk. We're not going to discuss that today because that seems like a very obvious.
That'd be a whole hour long show. This on that, man.
Yeah. So, but I did see a comment Jim Nagy made, and Jim Nagy, we have a lot of respect for. He runs the senior bowl. But he made a comment that essentially was, it's not about how technical or skillful or how much you train that gets you to the NFL. It's more about your genetics. And at first I thought, you know what, I kind of agree with that, whatever. And then just taking just another minute to think about it, I was like, you know what, not really. And excuse my language here, that's kind of horseshit, because if you look at some of the best players of all time, they really weren't these big, fast, strong dudes. And you see constantly these 6'6", 6'5", 220 receivers, 240, quarterbacks, or whatever the position is, these tall, fast, big, strong, prototypical guys
Right.
lay him out, because they aren't good at the technical aspect of football. And he even mentioned that, football is not a technical sport like, baseball with the swing or, basketball with your shot. And I would argue that, just in my opinion, I believe it is. Route running is a skill. It's a talent that, needs to be developed a lot, and we discussed before about Marvin Harrison Jr. And for sure, Marvin Harrison Jr. 6'4". I don't know his 40 time. I don't know his vert. I don't know all the other crap about it.
Right.
But I do know that he's been running and training to run routes since he was a kid because Marvin Harrison's his dad, who was a great route runner. So he's known the technical skills of how to set DBs up, what shape, which release you want to use, which part of the cushion do you want to eat up? Like again, he knows all like the little nuances and runs routes like an NFL receiver, but at the college level, and he's been running it like that his whole life. I think that gives him a bigger advantage than being 6'4".
For sure.
My opinion would be is that your genetics give you an opportunity. A team will take a guy, that's 6'5", 280 pounds off the street and give him a shot. Absolutely. And they might even give you a second shot. Dudes you can think of like Kevin White, for example, who are 6'4", 230 and run 4.3s. We'll get multiple opportunities with teams. But there's plenty of examples of guys like that that just never seem to click and get it. Because like I said, I think it's more of a technical skill that is required of playing football. And I think again, I know we talked about, kind of projecting and looking at the future with like the running back position. I think we've already started to see, and we will continue to see teams moving away from this idea of these big, fast, strong players that do this and looking more at, can this guy even play football? Right. Like you can't always teach football to everybody, but there's guys that are good at football that are missing opportunities. And if you look at, everyone overall picking this past draft, Bryce Young, he was 5'10", 200 pounds, but he's a dude that could play football at a high level at Alabama. Won national championships, was a great player there. And the team took him number one overall over CJ Stroud, who was more the prototypical 6'4", 230, whatever the big arm kind of a thing is.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's not a slight at Stroud, but I think we're seeing more of a progression to teams analyzing and looking at, can you play versus do I have to teach you how to play? Because you're
yeah.
going to get fired before you teach a guy how to play. And even in the tweet, Jim Nagy mentioned a player, Ziggy Ansah, who was, I don't remember what country he came from, but, didn't know about football 3 years before about playing it, got an offer at BYU, and then went on to being a top 5 pick. And like that was his example of, how genetics are what guarantee you a shot in the NFL or guarantee the NFL. Well, I'll point, I'm sorry, actually, he specifically said that you can be good at football based on your genetics.
Yeah.
But the point being is that Ziggy Ansah failed in the NFL. He had one really good year, absolutely. But the
Yep.
other 5 or 6 that he was actually in the league for, he was really bad.
Yeah.
A lot of injuries. So, I mean, that's even in his own example, there's a point of a guy that, or example of a guy that had the right genetics, but still didn't end up being really good at football or good at football. He had one good year of, whatever that happens, and then the rest were bad. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, what are your feelings about genetics in football?
I think that when as I was growing up, I heard the same phrase a lot from coaches, parents, whatever. You needed 3 things to really make it far. You needed to be big, or be fast, or be strong. And I felt like that philosophy held true, like in regards to coaches looking for prospects like that, all the way up through like high school. Like you might have experienced like the same thing. I remember going to like football camps when I was a senior in like high school, right? We're out there, we're doing our thing, running routes, defending guys, whatever, right? And there'll be a guy who's like 6'3", 6'4", wasn't making any plays, but the head coach of the school will go talk to him, right? So I felt like coaches had that mindset of like, hey, I can teach a kid to run a curl. I can't teach a kid to be 6'4".
Yeah,
You
which
know
is
what I mean?
ridiculous. If
Which
you,
is stupid.
yeah, if
Which
you
is
have a
stupid.
guy, if you have a receiver that's 5'10", don't ask him to run jump balls. Like I
No.
expect a player to be better than just jump balls. He can
It's
get up a break quicker than the DB and be open. But
it's so dumb. I had a friend, to your point, he was like 5'10". He ran, I mean, it was like hand time, but whatever. He ran like a 4.4, 4.5, one of the fastest times at this camp. He didn't even get looked at by a coach.
yeah,
Nothing.
yeah,
Nothing. We got this clumsy 6'4" dude not doing anything, not catching any balls in our like one-on-one drills, not doing anything like 7-on, and he's getting all the damn looks. You know what
yeah.
I mean? So I'm like,
I
so
mean, I
here,
feel like we all have a story like that, and I don't want to sit here and sound like I'm spiteful or petty or being anything like that. But that happened to me my senior year in high school. I was a defensive end. I was the 5'10" guy. There was another player that we had that was 6'4", and he was good. Don't get me wrong. He was a good player. But based on how many wins we had, we were only able to send one guy on offense and one guy on defense to be all conference. I
right,
beat him in sacks. I beat him in forced fumbles. I beat him in tackles, passes deflected, whatever. Like I overall had a better season, but they picked him to be the all conference player, the all whatever it was player, and perform in the all-star game, which would get him more looks and opportunities because as they told me, he had a better chance of playing in college. Now he never ended up playing in college. It was just some other factors that played into it. He went on to, I believe he went to the Air Force. Again, fantastic guy, great dude. I've met up with him several times since. Super nice dude. But that was something that even for me, I don't know how could my life have been different if I got to play in that all-star game and get looks at coaches in a unique setting that I didn't get to have.
right.
Again, I don't want to sound spiteful or anything. Like I'm happy with how my life turned out. I'm sure he's happy how his life turned out. I'm sure everyone involved is very satisfied with how everything's turned out.
Right.
But that's a primary. How many other guys didn't get opportunities because of their height or their weight or their size or some other thing?
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. And I feel as though, to your point, I think genetics help you get access to more opportunities,
For sure.
right? But does not guarantee you're going to do well at that level.
Absolutely. And I think
We've
that's the
seen
biggest takeaway from it.
we've seen lots of outliers in the league do well. Steve
Mhm.
Smith, 5'9", not even like a quote unquote slot receiver. Play the outside X.
Absolutely. Adam Thielen.
Dogging dudes up. You know what I mean?
Speaking of Vikings, Adam Thielen, a guy from a D2 school, not a highly athletic dude.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, not a highly athletic dude. Jerry Rice, greatest receiver of all time, 6 foot, didn't run a 4.3. I mean, the list. Elvis Dumervil was, I believe, 5'9", 5'10", defensive end, long, great NFL career. I mean, there's plenty of dudes that are prime examples of it, and it's because they were so good at their technical ability of how to play their position that they became Hall of Famers or Pro Bowlers or all pros or whatever it was.
I really like the shift in. To your point, I think that mindset is slowly fading out, right? Especially from like the college programs, right? And maybe that's because of the rise of like social media where people can get like more exposure, right? Get their clips out, that they can be seen more or whatever. But we do see those quote unquote like non-prototype prospects getting more chances now.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Bryce Young, 5'9", 5'10", just got drafted first overall. Yep. Kyler Murray, a couple years ago, the same thing, right? I mean, what, 30 years ago, that wasn't happening. Yeah, Brock Purdy now starting for an NFL squad after being the last pick of the NFL draft.
Yep, and that caused a ripple effect of this year of more Brock Purdy's being drafted.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I think we really are starting to see a shift in the NFL of, these GMs and these coaches saying, hey, you know what? I don't have the longevity that, the NFL GM and coaches used to have to sit here and teach this guy that's 6'4" how to play the goddamn game of football. I'd rather take the guy that already knows what he's doing because he can perform for me now and I won't get fired tomorrow.
Yeah,
versus, trying to take a chance on the guy's potential that might pan out in 3 years, but it's going to pan out for the next guy that comes in because I'm going to get fired. So I think that clock has probably also played a huge role into it.
Yeah, me too. And growing up, man, like now 7 all the way up through, high school, basically. I watched SportsCenter a lot. Mm-hmm. I've heard the word prototype said about players a whole lot. Oh, he has the prototypical size. He's the prototype for this. I've been hearing that phrase often. Now, it might be because I've been watching SportsCenter less often because that show kind of sucks now. But I've been hearing that phrase a little less as I scroll through, Twitter or whatnot. So I think you're right. I think that mindset is slowly getting phased out here.
And again, I think this past draft is a really great example of this. And this just popped in my head here. Who was the prototypical guy in this draft? Will Levis.
Yeah.
6'6", 250, big arm, went to a whatever school.
He has like 20 abs, bro.
He has 20 abs?
He has like -500% body fat.
-5. Someone needs to check on Will Levis alive?
His like veins have veins, bro.
5,000% body fat.
He is cut. that mayo and like the coffee routine he has going on, I might actually have to try that. Yeah,
don't do that.
I might. Hey,
genetics might not guarantee you great football, but it'll guarantee you diabetes.
Hey, at least he looks good out there. You know what I mean?
But yeah, I mean that dude's like the prototypical quarterback, and like I feel like 2 or 3 drafts ago, he would have gone like top 5 because he was the prototypical big, strong, fast, smart kind of guy. But now teams are basing it on your play. And Bryce Young goes number 1 overall because he led Alabama to national championships. He knew where his hots were. He knew where how to get the ball out on time to the right guys. He could play the quarterback position. It didn't matter that he hits 5'9", 5'10", versus Will Levis, who had a really, to be honest, a mediocre, nothing special season. Yeah, and because of that, even if he was a prototypical guy, he fell to the second round.
Yeah. No, that's actually, I love that point. Even before the draft, they had so much like hype. Right. Yeah. He's like, oh, he's going to be a top 5 pick.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah. I think at one point he had the best odds to go first.
Yeah. I think it was like the day before the draft. Like he had the highest odds to go number 1 overall.
So random. Right. And then he falls, which sucks. Sorry, Will. But I mean, to your point, is like they're not just looking at like your height and weight on a sheet anymore and seeing just solely your combine numbers and stuff like that. They're taking your game film and what you have put on the field into a factor.
Right. One. All right. So yeah, I just think it's a matter of I think genetics are probably kind of actually becoming a little bit more of an outdated, and people are looking more at the analytics behind it and a little bit more of like how the dude performs versus just how big he is. How good does he look in shorts, as they like to say nowadays.
Fact.
But let's kind of get on to our last position. Speaking of how things are changing here, um, this is your former position, so I'll let you start off this conversation. But what the hell has happened to the safety position? I mean, growing up, like we had our Ed Reeds, we had our Troy Polamalu's, our Brian Dawkins, our Sean Taylors. You had these game-changing dudes. And now I feel like you can barely name the top three. I mean, we can think of top two off our head, in any order: Micah Fitzpatrick and Derwin James for the Chargers. But beyond that, I mean, I feel like there really isn't a whole lot of guys that stand out enough for you to really think about who they are. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what are your thoughts about what's kind of happened to that position?
To your point, bro, I feel ashamed I can't even name like five off the top of the head right now. And two out of the five I can name are the Bears players. You know what I mean? I really don't know. Like they just, I don't know if it's because they're trying to phase out, I guess, like putting better or your best athletes at safety nowadays. You know how we're talking about the whole like running back
Yeah,
spot, right? And like that's gonna get phased out. I don't know if safety the same thing where now like maybe playing that hybrid backer role is more important than playing that strong or free safety spot, right? Or
right.
maybe more guys who would be like a free safety are playing corner now because
Or like
corner is seen
nickel.
at the premium spot nickel, right? So
Yeah.
I actually I don't have a good like answer for you, man. I really do not know what happened to these safety spot. Like there's not a whole lot of spotlight on them.
Well, what's even kind of like a bigger question mark to me about is, even if you want to sit here and go, okay, well, in the last 5 or 8 years, whatever it's been, the passing game has really been emphasized in the NFL, more bigger numbers, bigger yards, bigger everything. You know, what that rate, I can see, well, okay, well, maybe the running back position has deteriorated because there's been a move from running backs to, more receivers. That's where the money's at. That's where, all the big plays happen. But you would think that would also happen for the safeties because your corners are going to get you your pass breakups, or they're going to shut down the number one. They're going to get a lack of targets, whatever it is. But your safeties are supposed to be your ball hucking dudes. They're supposed to be the guys that again these turnovers, taking away the deep ball, coming over the middle and maybe not laying the wood anymore, but shutting things down.
Yeah.
So what has happened to this safety position is really mind-boggling to me because again, you would think that I apologize to the viewers for the girl crawling in the background there. I swear to God, I don't have a sex prison. Joke's on you. I do have a sex prison.
Chains and whips, excitement.
Yeah. Oh no, they've escaped. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Sorry, guys. I'll be right back.
Yeah, right.
That's great. This is still all recorded. No edits. This is live.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
live,
live
bro.
TV. What's happened to the safety position? They've been distracted. No, I mean, I really don't. I think maybe there's just been more of an emphasis of these guys that have been converted to these, safety, or I'm sorry, these hybrid linebacker kind of roles. Maybe they move more down to nickels. Maybe less guys are willing to make that transition because, before, if you were a bad corner, they'd kind of pull you aside and go, hey, maybe you should try playing safety and go give that a shot.
Yep.
But nowadays, maybe they're just willing to let these guys ride it out because that's where the money's at. That's where the scholarships are at. That's where the offers are at. And people don't want to convert to safety like maybe they used to want to do. And maybe
Yeah.
that plays a major role into it.
To your point, you just said a great point
About the
on
sex dungeon?
what up. Yeah, about the sex dungeon, bro. No, he's a good point about people moving over to safety, which I guess it didn't click until now. But I've seen a trend where like older corners are now playing like free safety and stuff.
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
they're taking dudes.
started with like Charles Woodson. I think Rodney Harrison was a similar situation too,
Was
where he
it?
used to be a corner for the Patriots and he moved to safety.
I mean, that kind of tells you too. Like, right?
Yeah.
Like, once you're not athletic enough to play corner, go play safety.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like, and maybe this is just me personally, like whenever we'd play like these backyard football games, like just our friends, I mean, I fucking love the safety position. I hated playing corner because I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and waste all my energy trying to run around with this guy and not even get the ball thrown to me. At least if I'm safety, I can like read the guy's eyes and like try to like bait him and go make a play on the ball. Like that seems like the funnest thing to me. Like I don't want to see him just run and mirror a guy.
Yeah.
Like,
I play both. Both are very fun. I mean, almost corner is more fun than like safety, honestly.
really?
Yeah. Just because I like coverage. You know what I mean? I like covering a guy. I like the whole like mind game. Cause like even
Yeah.
like during like the middle of like the route, you can kind of like you're trying to guess like, hey, is he can go out in? What is he going to like do? Like it's like a whole like game within like a game.
I get it.
You
I
know
mean,
what I mean?
I get that, but at least like with safety, you kind of get to play that mind game with the quarterback. I mean, Ed Reed was famous that he would like put something on tape. Like I remember there's a clip where Peyton Manning was talking about how he hated going against Ed Reed because on tape they kind of showed like it was whenever it was like cover two and he had two birds going on the side, he'd always like come take the slot or whatever it was, and what was funny is Ed Reed was in the interview as well, and he told you like, yeah, I did that intentionally because then in the game when they played the Colts, same thing happened. They ran two seams, and he immediately took a step forward, did a 180, and ran right at the outside receiver and picked off a ball from Peyton Manning. And Peyton's like,
I
how the
remember
hell did
that.
he? So I mean,
Yeah.
it's like that would be super fun to me, and I want to get my hands on the ball. I don't want to just bat it down. I want to like tackle a receiver. I want to go make a pick. I want to jump over a guy, take that big and return. Because especially if you're a safety and you get your hands on the ball, usually there's like no one else around you. You got like the one receiver near you. But
Yeah.
besides that, it's like a kickoff return. You're like, cool, no one's around. I am gone.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, like, whenever I play backyard football or like I go play in the flag football leagues, like I'm like, safety's off limits, guys. That's me. That's my thing. And I'll
Yeah.
get like two picks a game because it's just, but I don't say, I don't know. Maybe, like I said, people have just kind of like in the NFL looked at him and the money's not there. The focus has been more on corners who are going to be the Revis Island. They're going to lock up these receivers, take away these weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
And I can understand the rule change of like you can't really hit anyone over the middle anymore, which is a good thing. It's for safety, but it's kind of taken away like some of the value in like the safety position because you used to be that enforcer and you can't really do that anymore.
Yeah. I can't even tell you, bro. I just feel like the last prominent, you know, person like I can think of top of mind that I know like what top safety was like Earl Thomas during like the Legion of Boom era. Like
Yeah.
that's the last time I really heard of like a safety being in like headlines.
Yeah. I mean, there
You
was
know what I mean?
Jamal Adams for a minute, but the joke was always with him that, he had more sacks than interceptions and he was like a
Yeah.
pass rusher. But I mean, you really don't hear anything about Jamal Adams anymore. And that might be because he's hurt. I mean, we have a hope. I will say, if you're a fan of safeties, we do have a hope. We have Talanoa Hufunga for the
Yeah, he is
Flares.
good.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he had a
I like him.
yeah,
He's good.
he plays a safety position in the fun way it's supposed to be played. And I hope he continues to play that way. So more of these young kids go, you know what? Money might be at corner, but that looks fun as hell, and I want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not everyone can be a corner, so go
No,
play fucking safety. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
for sure. Listen, if you're not athletic enough to be a corner, go be a safety and have the time of your life. Just go after balls, dude. And just you got to think, anytime that ball's in the air as a safety, that ball's yours. That
Yeah.
is your ball. You need to go get that ball. You need it, whatever it takes, jumping over dudes. Nothing else in the world matters. That's yours. Go get it and then have fun. Like once you get it up, go look like an idiot trying to return that ball. You're going to run around 3 times across the field because you don't know the next time you're going to get your hands on a ball. So you better score and make it look good.
Bro, bring the greatness back to safety, man.
Yeah.
Come
Plus,
on. Come
even at
on.
that, like you can, even at safety, you can still come down off the line. You can blitz, delay blitz. You can move to like the nickel, or cover up the slot if you need to. Sure, but like, I mean, if they're playing you like the free safety, the center field role, dude, go ham and have fun.
That's so fun. I always like going back to Earl Thomas. I was so jealous of him because like he's like 25, 30 yards back, right? They're in cover one. He's just playing center field.
Oh yeah,
Three quarterbacks eyes. Like, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, that's like the funnest. Yeah, no, for real.
Like that's the funnest thing. Plus, you got anytime like the DB, the corner like does tip the ball up or whatever, you're right there. There's
Right
no
there,
easier pick in the world, and the ball is just kind of hanging there. And you're like, oh, thanks.
dude. Dude. Yeah, but dude, I don't know what happened to safety, man. I haven't seen a safety in like the headlines, like, you know,
Yeah.
talked about as one of the best players. I can't even think like, dude, I can't even think like, you know, back in the day, Ed Reed, Troy,
Oh my
Ryan were
dude,
always
Brian
talked
Dawkins,
about as
Weapon X.
they were talked about like one of the best players in the league.
Yeah.
I can't tell
Sean
you when a
Taylor was
safety.
taking over the league.
I can't tell you last time a safety was considered like top 10 like overall player.
Yeah, like at best you can maybe make the argument, oh well, Derwin James, and don't get me wrong, this isn't a knock on Derwin James. Derwin James is a fantastic player. He's an amazing player. He's an all-pro. He probably, if his career keeps going the same way it does, will probably be in the Hall of Fame. Minkah Fitzpatrick had a little bit of hype to him at some point when he was in Miami and was getting traded.
Yeah.
But they never at any point were you like, oh gosh, Darwin James is on the field. Oh my gosh.
I know. Like it's just completely shifted, and I don't know when it happened. Like to your point, like I don't know what or when or how, but at some point it's just like they just weren't talked about. Like safety
Yeah.
is like the running back of like defense now.
Yeah, again, I think it's kind of what happened like with running back too. Is with running back, a lot of these guys who were receivers that were too small when they were kids and playing in Pop Warner got told, "Hey, Stevie, you're not good enough to play receiver. You couldn't catch a cold in winter. We're gonna put you at running back, and you're gonna run for your life through these linebackers." And kids did it, and they were good at it, and they did it their whole lives.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a similar kind of, not I was an issue, but we have a similar conversation with my cousin and who lives in Wisconsin. He's convinced in his mind he's a receiver, and I'm like, no. I mean, he can catch. It's not an issue if he can catch, but like his build, his body type, it's like you're a running back. Go play running back and go enjoy the hell out of it. There's nothing wrong with being a running back, but all these kids nowadays, and obviously for a while now, have wanted to be receivers, and they'll take being a slot receiver over being a running back.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think people just need to bring the fun back to being a running back.
Yeah.
Go run over dudes. Ignore these conversations about tread and whatever the hell else they're gonna try to use to discredit you. Go run over someone and tell me if you don't enjoy the crap out of yourself.
Just go play ball.
Yeah.
And be the best that you can be at it. And just for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think that kind of wraps up all the topics that we have been passionate about this week on the episode of the Rational Football League show. Again, thank you for watching our ridiculous personality spiel here. Rational Football League show, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Like, follow, subscribe, notifications on. Until next time, it's been Emmett, it's been B. Have a great weekend, guys.